Alright, welcome to the video for lesson number 8. Lesson number 8 talks about the sine and cosine curves. We spent a couple days working and developing some of these ideas. And there are a couple things that are for sure important about each of these curves. And one of the things is knowing that they're actually the same curve, just a horizontal translation or shift from each other. So the first thing it says, knowing how to sketch sine and cosine is essential. Sketch one cycle of each function on a different set of axes below. So if I create an x and y axis here, the sine curve goes up, back down, and here I know this is at pi over 2, this is at pi, this is at 3 pi over 2, and this would be 2 pi. This would be an example of the sine curve. To sketch a cycle of the cosine curve, we know the cosine curve starts at the maximum, goes down to the minimum, and then back up. This would be at pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi would be the end. Notice I'm kind of cutting it into quarters to represent the 4 quadrants. This would be an example of the cosine curve. For number 2, it says describe the x-intercepts of the sine curve and the x-intercepts of the cosine curve. So the sine of theta has x-intercepts at 0 degrees, 180 degrees, 360 degrees. Cosine of theta has x-intercepts at 90 degrees and 270 degrees. And we know that because of the curves we just sketched and because of the unit circle. The unit circle has zeros for sine at 0, 180, and at cosine for 90 and 270. Notice also the zeros are separated by 180 degrees in each one. That's kind of a little hint there. Number 3 says, is the sine function increasing or decreasing over the interval from 90 to 270, right? So this is really 90 degrees, this is really 270 degrees. So if I look at my sine function from 90 to 270, I'm talking about this section of my curve. That yellow section is decreasing, so I can say that is going to be an example of decreasing. That's like for the first question. The second question says, is the cosine function increasing or decreasing from pi to 2 pi? That's 180 to 360. So essentially that's talking about quadrants 3 and 4. So if I go back from 180 to 360, we're on that yellow portion of the curve. That's increasing. So I know the second question here is an example of something that would be increasing. Next question says, Desmond is trying to determine if the value of the sine of 45, he decides since 45 is halfway between 0 and 90, that the sine of 45 is 1/2. Logical, right? Well, guess what? Desmond is wrong. So let's use the graph to show that. So if this is 90 degrees here, this makes 45 degrees. Well, this is 0.5, and my point's up here. So I see that the point for 45 degrees is above 0.5. So I can say the sine of 45 degrees is greater than 0.5. I know that because it's above 0.5 on my graph. So Desmond's wrong. The next part says to actually determine the values of cosine that are 0.5. So I see a 0.5 value here. I see another one here. I see another one here. So positive 0.5 would be those 3 values. So I know one of them is 30 degrees from my graph. The other one is 150 degrees. And the last one is going to be 30 degrees more than 360, right? Because I'm starting here at 360, I'm going 30 more to get to that point. So that'll be 390. It then asks us to convert each one of those to radians. So if I want to convert 30 degrees to radians, I would do 30 times pi over 180, which is going to become 30 pi over 180, or just pi over 6. So that's one answer. If I do 150 times pi over 180, that becomes 150 pi over 180, which becomes 5 pi over 6. And the last one, if we do 390 times pi over 180, we're going to get 7 pi over 6. Sorry, I had a little bit of a brain fart there. So we wind up getting our final answer. Sorry, that brain fart's still going here. It's actually 13 pi over 6. My fault. All right. So there are our 3 radian measurements. The last question, I'm hoping that we're all able to answer after all this work, is why is there no values such that sine of theta equals 2? Well, I know that the range of the sine of theta is between -1 and +1. I know that because of the unit circle. So if I think about the unit circle, the sine is the y value, so this vertical line. That's never going to be more than 1, because this goes up to 1 and goes down to -1. It's never going to be outside of that realm. And that's your homework assignment. Hopefully this video helped, and best of luck looking at everything. And just start studying, because we are going to have a test coming up soon, and all of this stuff does get different. I don't want to say more difficult, just different.